When we received the news about my son passing away, my daughter-in-law's two sisters came to our house, knocked on the door and said that they were there to see Teresa, our daughter-in-law. My daughter-in-law showed up with the police to notify us that her son had been shot and killed. And so the support we had at the time was my daughter-in-law.
For myself and for my family, it was more our friends were there. Definitely friends were a huge presence in our case.
Yeah, at the time of my son's death, I was going over to Victoria to visit him, and I had a funny feeling on the ferry that something was wrong because he wasn't answering the phone. So I get to his place, and it's cornered off. There's the yellow tape, and the police wouldn't give me any information. I was there by myself. I phoned my brother and said, I think Terry's dead, and at that point my ex had left before, so I was on my own. So I phoned my ex, and he phoned some friends who came later, and then I had to go to the police station. A friend that also lived in the house found him about 3 in the morning. Otherwise, if that friend wasn't there, then I would have been the one to find him.
When I found out about my son's death, I was out on an errand, and my husband was home. And when I came home, there were 2 RCMP officers waiting for me to break the news. And they told me that the body that was found the night before was my son's. That was a very big shock to both my husband and I. There was so much that I was dealing with at that point. My husband his health was deteriorating because he had Parkinson's. I was also doing caregiving for my elderly father, so it was just everything that kind of happened at the same time. I know I went into a real state of shock because that lasted for about the first year because everything was a blur to me. Having to learn new coping skills with that.
As far as finding out and having the news, like each one of you, we don't have the body of my brother, nor will we be getting it back. So the news, I knew when he hadn't contacted my mom for her birthday, but it took some time for the police for a missing person investigation, and then I went in to report him as murdered, but it did take some time until some DNA was collected at the location where he last was to confirm that. Really took about 3 months later. So there was no knock at the door or us showing up at a house where he was or anything. So it was a little bit more unique than that.
Immediately was friends. For myself, I've actually just kind of come to the realization the last little while that my friends don't ask me how I'm doing, and it's kind of affected me a little bit funny the last little while. And just, your closeness with your friends, I think you kind of find out, maybe they don't understand, maybe they don't know how to bring it up. It's kind of difficult. I don't know if, when they ask me, oh, how are you doing? Don't know how they're actually asking that question. Or maybe I should be a little more open, ask maybe, well, what do you mean? Do you mean with, with Kimmy's death, or with just generally speaking?
My family, I didn't feel initially that I had this support because it was a homicide, and there's always a stigma attached to homicides, and I think that was it. And of course the fact that people don't know how to deal with those sorts of things. So it was very difficult for me to cope with so many things at the same time. And that was when I decided, no, I needed some help. And I heard about the program that they had, and I decided to attend. And that was the best thing that I could have done for myself.
During I guess the initial reporting him, that we couldn't reach him, and that during that time, just a couple friends and then family were the people for support. But also, I'm the support for everyone in my family, so I didn't really see that I needed support.
I went to a support group before, but it was just a support group for, generally, nobody in that group had lost a child. And I didn't really get much satisfaction from it. And then I learned about the homicide group, and I forget how I learned about that. But anyway, it really helped because people at the homicide group had the same things happen, and they understood my feelings better. There's just nothing worse than losing a child, because he was just 21 or 20. But I found the homicide group was excellent.
Well, for me, I wasn't really sure what to expect, and I think the reason why I went there to the group was to be open and with my feelings, not because the time, I think, to really let go and really explain how I felt. I wasn't really saying to my husband, we weren't sitting down and explaining what was going through our minds and that sort of thing, our feelings. So, I was able to physically go and open up and speak what was on my mind and what was going on, and just sharing the different feelings, because there's all mixed emotions. You've got the sad, the angry, upset, all coming up all at once, and sometimes all coming up at once, really, or switching back and forth. And in real life, I was just kind of doing my thing and just trooping through, and because I had to, I didn't want to be upset in front of my children. I was behind closed doors, and this way I was able to open up and just be myself and explain what's going on in my head, what's going on in my body, and that, and seeing that it's normal, because there's other people there that are going through the same emotions.
I really had to sort of release a lot of pent-up emotions that were inside. We both felt that we were handling it, my wife Nadia and myself both felt that we were handling it fairly good, but we realized when we got to the group that there were a lot of issues that were still hidden under the surface, and the support group really helped us bring those out and open up, and it was great having the support of other people that have been through a similar situation.
Because there was so much that I learned, both from the people that I met. At my most vulnerable, I could be with people who had walked the same path that I did and were suffering the same pain, so when I talked about my pain, they could understand, because they had been through the same things. We could laugh together, we could cry together, and I just felt that, that was what I needed, and I got everything that I needed from the program. They gave me the skills to deal with my son's death, and I definitely got a different perspective. Listening to each and every one and their pain and what they went through was a real teacher for me for where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, and what I needed to do for myself.
Just somebody that could realize how I was feeling or had the same feelings, that would understand more. And I think, was able to help a lot of people or answer questions for them. So it just was really different than a normal support group.
Absolutely. It was a 100% positive experience for myself and my wife.
At the time with our group, I was kind of like the veteran, because, I had gone through the arrests, the victim impact statements, the court and everything, and they were placed already. Because I think I went to the support group about a year and a half afterwards, and there were people there that were very new. And, I realized I was, when they were talking, I was realizing, this is how I was too, at that point. But I shut the door down and wasn't being open and that. So I think it was good for me to open up and be myself and let the emotions go and a time. And I actually look forward to each week to come, and because I was able to do that, just be myself, and and it was very helpful, very helpful.
I think most of the needs we have now are things that we have to cope with ourselves. That it's a pain that never goes away, and you just have to learn how to cope with it and handle it. And I think we're doing the best that we possibly can with it. So we're getting on with our lives, but at the same time, we're still honoring our son, and doing things to honor him.
When I came, I don't think I was aware of what my needs were. But I knew that how I was living wasn't the best way to deal with life. So no particular need, except the same feeling was for me that there's no judgment. So maybe that was something that was important that I didn't know, because talking about the murder, I think I said it a few times in different meetings that we had, is that I'm not crazy. For me, since it was 6 years, that was 6 years of thinking that I was crazy, and how come this was in my head and in my heart, and the struggling for justice and that kind of thing. So one of my needs would have been then that I was where I belonged. I was with other people who were thinking and feeling the same thing. So I didn't know that was a need, but it was met.
Joining the group for me was a place where I could go, and I knew that there would be no judgment, because like I said before, with homicide itself, because it is so horrific, and there are still stigmas attached to the whole concept of homicides, and I think that was part of the side of me that was afraid of what I would encounter coming into a group of people. But I found that there was no judgment and total support. So that was really good for me. Some of the things that I found was really helpful was some of the speakers that you had brought in from time to time that gave some enlightenment onto some of the things that I had no clue about. When somebody from the RCMP came in and gave a talk on how they work, and I got a perspective of some of the struggles and trials and tribulations that they are having while doing trying to do their job. It gave me a different perspective on my sense, and that they might not tell you how important your case is, but somebody's doing something about it. And then also the victim statement, that was very enlightening, because you hear about the Crown and the defense, and no perspective, but at least from the group, it kind of all came together for me.
For me, with the homicide group, our case was different than other cases in the group. It actually opened my eyes up, I believe, for that, is homicide has a huge range, and that's one thing. When I think of homicide, you think of someone that the way your loved one has died, but there's so many other factors and so many other homicides out there. And just understanding, I think I actually had an eye-opener and realization that other people that I kind of thought, oh, it's just, a different kind of homicide, and not really feeling it was really important. But now it's like, I know someone who went through that. I know someone who was in that situation, who had a loved one who was murdered.
There was this ball of emotions color sheet to color, and there were different sadness and anxiety and anger and confusion and loneliness. Everything is on this worksheet. And when I saw it for the second time, I thought, oh, this will be quite interesting, actually, because I have kept the one that I did for my previous session, which was probably 2 years before I was doing this one. So I was coloring this one thinking, geez, I know I colored this one particular emotion a lot in the last time, but I've come to a different place now, 2 years later, where I was only coloring that emotion for a bit, and my emotions had changed. And that was discussed in a couple of the different groups, that it's very fluid, your grief. And when I got that sheet also, I was at a different point where I added a couple strands to this ball of emotions. And one was some peace and one was some forgiveness. And when I compared it to the one from the 2 years before, I think I probably would have wanted to smack you if you had talked about you could find some peace somewhere. So the exercises, even though I didn't want to do them in the beginning, ended up being something that was very helpful, and I still look back on them and they're helpful now.
Often I hear about people in the groups reaching out to help other people. I think that's another huge milestone. And so the rewards for me are just immeasurable. Seeing the changes that people do through the work they do and the outcomes they receive from being in a group of understanding peers and everybody being there to help everyone else. It's a very almost miraculous way that things flow, but the outcome is, I've never seen a bad outcome. It's always good in my vision.
I still have days that I want him back. And I don't know that my question has been answered, that why was he taken? I believe there's a being up there, and that when it's their time to go, they go. But I still, I guess, don't fully understand it. I see other people with kids that would be my son's age, and I think, oh, they're so lucky. And I used to, well, it wasn't really resentment towards them. Can't explain it. But I think I'm dealing with that better. And the other one is that I'll never have grandkids. And I guess my goal in life was to have a family, have grandkids, to be with, I don't know, die before my kids. And I don't know, it's not really resentment, but I just am still dealing with all that.
If I go on the word closure, it's never going to happen. To me, it's become like a buzzword.
Yep.
Really, it is a buzzword that's used, and it first of all, it does not apply to my emotions, and it doesn't mean anything to me. But I do believe that it sets expectations, and when they use that word, people who are in our situation, yeah, we feel that there's going to be something big at the end of it all. And we are so disappointed when it doesn't happen the way it is. So I I'm glad that you addressed that stupid word, because for me, it's upsetting, because I know the way I feel about my loved one, there is no replacement. And it doesn't matter if whoever the perpetrators are brought to justice. It's never going to satisfy my need
Your loss.
and my loss with that word. I prefer to think of it as accepting a new reality, because that is what it will be for me.
I didn't realize one of my needs was to hear from people about how they honored their loved one, what they got. Did they have a funeral? Do they have a spot to go and talk to their person? Or was their person cremated in their house with them all the time? And in the group, people shared that with me. So although there is still one element that none of them will ever know, they helped me by sharing each of their own individual ones, which everyone was different.
Well, as you know, the day after my son passed away, I wrote a song with his help, and which we went into the recording studio and had recorded. And my son wanted to be involved with helping children in third world countries. And so we worked in conjunction with Save the Children Canada, and they've opened up a website called Stop the Violence, and it's got a picture of my son and my grandson with a story about what happened to him. And for a donation to Save the Children, people can download the song and listen to it. And from what I gather from Save the Children, it's been fairly successful for them. I've also honored my son since then by just helping people. It's really a big part of my life right now, helping people with not asking for any reward for doing it other than just the pleasure of helping somebody. And that's my way of honoring him, because that's what he would have done.
You were there, then you were gone, torn away by a senseless act. A piece of our hearts, a piece of our souls go with you, but you're gone, gone, gone. And that shining boy who had so much to give brought so much joy to others.